Oh, hey, Peter. Be with you in a sec. I'm burning the place down.
Number 20. Killing Rupert.
When Stewie pays more attention to his teddy bear Rupert than to Brian, it drives the dog crazy. So much so that he chews Rupert to shreds in a drunken fit, causing a major rift between the iconic twosome.
How about you kill something I love? How about I do that? Whoa, okay.
Later, Brian admits that he did it on purpose, out of jealousy. Hardly a valid excuse for murdering his most prized companion and sole confidant.
And I was sick of always playing second fiddle to that bear. He's not even real.
To Brian's credit, he does earn Stewie's trust back by helping him send off the departed bear, and secretly gives his friend a new Rupert. But it barely makes up for the dog's petty behavior over a stuffed toy.
Number 19. Helping Lois with a medical issue. Brian's feelings for Lois are a secret to no one, except her sometimes. But he usually isn't as perverted about it as some of her other admirers. Quagmire. Even so, Brian isn't above being a scumbag on occasion. When Lois complains about Stewie biting her during feeding, Brian offers to take a look, on the basis that he's seen lots of medical shows.
Maybe I should, look at it.
Although he does suggest that Lois begin weaning her infant, he only does so after oogling her for longer than the situation calls for.
I'm sorry, what?
Brian's follow-up request takes things over the line even further.
Any other problems you have, too, like, for example, around your underpants that you want me to take a look at? I could take a look at that, too.
Number 18. Tricking Quagmire.
Oh, come on, Brian, don't do that. Don't cry, be a man.
Even though Quagmire hates Brian's guts, he takes it upon himself to pay for the dog's teeth replacement surgery. With a new dazzling smile, Brian lands a successful job as a real estate agent and decides to thank Quagmire by tricking him into buying horrible rundown property, then avoiding him so he can't get out of his contract.
This is a dump!
Well, maybe it's still got a nice ocean view.
The harbor is poisoned.
It really says something when you're more underhanded and malicious than a maniac like Quagmire, especially one that willingly helped you out when no one else bothered.
Screwing over the people who helped you? I don't know how you sleep at night.
It makes Quagmire's hatred more sympathetic, and Brian's comeuppance at the end well-deserved.
Number 17. Stealing Quagmire's ex. Speaking of Brian and Quagmire's feud, it arguably reaches its most petty peak, at least on Brian's side, after he attends Quagmire's class on picking up women.
I'm in your class.
What? No way, I don't want you in here.
Too bad. Here's my class receipt. Now teach me how to find love.
After Quagmire's method proves ineffective on landing a woman Brian's interested in, Brian decides to use it on one of Quagmire's own exes, and arguably his true love, real-life model Cheryl Tiegs.
Hey, Cheryl, get your fat ass over here before I dump you.
He's so bossy, I love it.
Brian being willing to use and mistreat a woman simply out of revenge is not a good look. Though, to be fair, Quagmire sinks to a similar level by dating Brian's airheaded ex, Jillian.
He showed up at my door and said he was a federal boob inspector, and I was gonna tell him to go away, but he had a warrant.
It was a Snickers wrapper, Brian.
Still, Brian didn't have to go there first. We hope Quagmire hitting him with a car is enough to hammer home the lesson. Number 16. His affair with Tori.
The only thing sadder than Brian's writing career is his love life. When he manages to sleep with a pretty dame named Tori, she turns out to be married to a Navy SEAL named Vic.
You got a dog?
Yeah. I rescued him from the pound.
Brian pretends to be their new pet dog so that he and Tori can continue their affair, and it seems like the perfect scam, until Vic catches wind that Tori's cheating and chains Brian outside as a guard dog on the lookout.
Shh, be cool. This is the guy whose wife I'm banging.
Oh, what a romantic way to put it.
Thankfully, he never finds out that Brian is the scumbag, and once again, Stewie comes in to save his canine companion, even though he really doesn't deserve it for going along with this sexcapade.
Number 15. Framing his coworker. Brian's terrible behavior with women isn't exclusive to the women he dates or his family members. When he gets a job at a hotline, he tries flirting with an attractive coworker, Martha. After striking out initially, he Facebook stalks her, hoping to get more info on her.
Well, nothing says I can't date her up here. Let's see what kind of Facebook account we got for this.
Well, that's his intent, but a photo compels him to do something you really shouldn't at work. To make matters worse, Martha catches him in the act. afraid of losing his job, Brian decides to frame her for drug use.
Do what I do when people don't pay their rent. Plant drugs and call the cops.
And right when she inexplicably decides to give him another chance, Martha is arrested.
You did this, didn't you? I knew you were a little twerp as soon as I met you. He did this! He planted that!
It's hard to feel sorry for Brian when she pushes him down the stairs. Number 14, enabling Meg's self-destructive decision. During a hurricane, the TV goes out, leaving the Griffin family looking for things to do. After they insult Meg, she finally snaps and tells them all off for mistreating her.
I am sick of all you guys ganging up on me. You guys all think you're so much better than me.
Oh, Meg, that is the least fancy thing I have ever heard.
However, after they begin turning on each other, Meg comes to believe that she acts as a lightning rod for all their dysfunction, and tells Brian that maybe her being blamed for all their problems helps her family.
Do you think it's possible that this family can't survive without some sort of lightning rod to absorb all the dysfunction?
Rather than refute her theory, Brian calls her decision to continue acting as the family punching bag noble and mature.
You know, that's incredibly noble and mature, Meg. You know, I think you might be the strongest person in this house.
In all fairness to Brian, though, he's just coming off a crazy trip and cutting off his own ear, so maybe he's not in his right mind. Number 13, cheating on his fiancée. Even when Brian takes a few steps forward in the dating world, he usually takes a few dozen backwards.
How old are you?
Oh, you don't want to know.
I kind of do.
Brian dates an older woman named Rita, and they really hit it off. Despite being mocked by his family, he ends up proposing to her. However, after Rita injures her hip, Brian is put off by how much care Rita requires.
Oh, and if you're going out, get some milk of magnesia.
Yeah, you just said that.
He ends up hooking up with a girl he picks up in a bar. While he does own up to it, Rita sees through his rationalizations and breaks up with him.
You cheated on me. That's what happened today. You can rationalize it any way you want, but to me, all that shows is that you're an immature guy who doesn't realize what a catch I am.
Brian may play at being mature, but at the end of the day, he's both literally and figuratively a dog. Number 12, racism. Brian presents himself as one of the most progressive animals in Quahog, but he has some rather backwards racial opinions that slip out on occasion. Easily his most blatant is a joke he makes in a tweet that sees him become the town pariah and have to move out. That happens in multiple episodes, by the way.
Hello, Twitter. And I have to move out again.
Then there's his barking at the family's music manager, or when his racist views on black men crop up in a conversation with Stewie, both of which he blames on his father's influence.
You, gotta work on that, man. Bad dog.
Brian also reacts negatively when Stewie jokes that he might be part black. Some people have preconceptions that they need to work on, but Brian seems like he needs more work than most.
You son of a bitch!
Number 11, being a bad father.
In the appropriately titled episode, Brian's a Bad Father, Brian does very little to be part of his estranged son Dylan's life, until he learns that Dylan has a successful career on the Disney Channel.
You want a job on my show?
Hey, don't put the universe's words in my mouth, okay?
I don't know, Dad. I've barely seen you in the past few years.
Unsurprisingly, Brian exploits Dylan's connections to land himself a job on the show, makes all kinds of arrogant changes, and steals all the craft services food.
I thought they were anybody's Diet Coke.
They're for work.
I work at home.
Clearly, the episode's title was being too generous, as Brian is barely a father at all, distancing himself from his own child until it seems like he can use him to further his writing career, which, let's be real, is going nowhere fast.
You're a terrible father. I never want to see you again.
Number 10, hitting on Meg's friend.
Hey there, babe.
Hey, Brian.
You ready? Got the smash mouth queued up in the pre.
We've established how scummy Brian can be towards women, but most of the time he confines his behavior towards adult women. In one episode, Brian finds himself obsessed with Meg's friend Patty after seeing her changing. He hits on her constantly, going out of his way to bump into Meg's friends, and even taking Patty out on a date.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if any of those stars are wishing on us, huh?
You're so deep.
Thankfully, Brian doesn't get his wish, thanks to Meg's intervention and a wish upon a star. Granted, Patty is 18 and technically an adult, but she's still in high school. She may be older than Brian, since he's a dog, but society considers him more of an adult than her, so it's still creepy.
Meg, I'm $18 into this evening, so can you maybe just get out of here?
Number 9. His literal blind date.
In yet another ongoing chapter of Brian's failed love life, he hits it off with a blind woman named Kate. Unfortunately, and hilariously, she hates dogs. So Brian bends over backwards to hide what he really is.
I'm just not really a dog person, I guess.
Oh, yeah, me neither. Dog people can get pretty annoying.
While also impressing her with fake feats during their dates. The ruse almost works, until he meets her parents, who have perfect vision, and is found out as both a dog and a liar.
But I can't get over the fact that you lied to me. You screwed up, Brian.
This could have been a good learning experience about honesty, if Brian didn't decide in the end to trick her with a fake voice, once again exploiting her blindness and learning absolutely nothing.
Number 8. Hesitating to save his wife. In a 2-part episode, Brian gets married to Jess, a woman with cancer. However, after her cancer is cured, Brian is less than enthused. Jess gains weight due to overeating now that she can stomach more food. While she's stuffing her face at a restaurant, she starts choking.
Well, I'm sorry it's so disgusting, but that's all they have. Oh, what, you gonna die if you have to eat mild salsa? Come on.
Brian doesn't understand what's happening at first, but when he finally does realize, he delays calling for help so that Jess dies, until the funeral. Brian later admits that he viewed letting her die as the only way out of their marriage.
I was just so unhappy being married. I guess I felt letting you choke was my only way out. God, that sounds awful. Maybe I did deserve to die.
Jess also proves willing to have him killed, but it doesn't make Brian's potential manslaughter by inaction any less terrible. Number 7. Giving Stewie and Chris an STD.
Stewie and Brian are the show's most developed duo. Stewie decides to cement that bond by performing a blood ritual with the dog. Brian agrees, only for Stewie to wake up with herpes, thanks to his so-called blood brother.
Oh my God! Your mouth looks like the underside of a boat!
Out of all the horrible things Brian has done to Stewie, belittling his creativity out of jealousy, treating him like dirt, or frightening him for fun, this is the most underhanded. He knew he was infected and swapped blood with Stewie anyway. It turns out that he also gave Chris herpes, making him a repeat offender.
Number 6. Going after Lois.
Even before this episode, we've seen that Brian harbors romantic feelings for Lois, but he usually keeps it under control for the sake of his friendship with Peter. However, when Lois and Peter's relationship is on the rocks, she and Brian start growing a little closer. It seems sweet until Brian loses control and tries to force himself on Lois.
Oh my God, Brian, now!
Thankfully, Lois is able to push him off before the situation can escalate, and he deeply regrets his actions. But that hardly changes the fact that he made a move on his best friend's wife, and worse, didn't take no for an answer. And we thought Quagmire was bad.
Number 5. Disregarding Stewie's safety.
When Brian finds out that Stewie attends a rundown, unsafe daycare, he goes to give the negligent teacher a piece of his mind, until he sees how attractive she is.
Excuse me, are you Miss Emily?
Yeah, hi. Who are you?
Brian.
He then spends the rest of the episode ignoring Stewie's suffering and focusing on scoring a date with the teacher. In fact, he even goes so far as to keep Stewie from ratting her out after she dislocates his shoulder.
You are not going anywhere. I finally have a date with Miss Emily tomorrow, and I'm not going to let you or anybody else get in my way until I have seen every inch of her naked.
Brian calls the police on her only after he finds out that she has a boyfriend. So basically, he only does the right thing when he knows he can't get what he wants.
What you did to these kids? There is a special place in hell for people like you.
Why are he and Stewie friends again?
Number 4. Encouraging cannibalism. When the Griffins decide to climb Mount Everest, things are bound to go wrong, but they really go sideways.
Don't feel too bad, gang. We only beat you by 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 43 seconds.
Not only did the smug Fishman family get there ahead of them, but the Griffins also get trapped in a snowstorm and run out of food. Thanks, Peter. When they come across the dead body of the Fishman's son, Ben, Brian suggests the extreme, that they eat him.
Or we could...
Could what?
Eat him.
Sure, it's an extreme set of circumstances, and it's hard to judge anyone who's been that hungry and desperate. But on the other hand, it's disturbingly easy for Brian to suggest this. Granted, it's not technically cannibalism for him. On the other hand... Number 3. Investing in a dog protein shake. Now we can feel you wondering, do they mean a protein shake for dogs? No.
Life is a highway.
After Stewie and Brian begin investing in the stock market together, it goes to Brian's head. When he shows Stewie a shady new investment involving protein shakes, they discover that they're made from dogs. While he's naturally horrified, Brian is undeterred and willing to go forward with it as long as he makes money.
Wall Street is a people-eat-dog world. Everyone knows that.
He only seems to learn his lesson after he's caged himself, and Stewie rescues him. If it takes almost being killed and eaten to realize that profiting off the consumption of your kind is bad, it's not the greed that's wrong. It's you, Brian.
I'm so sorry, Stewie. I guess I just lost my head.
Well, lesson learned, Brian. Money doesn't buy happiness.
Number 2, shooting a waiter.
While on a rescue mission, Stewie gives Brian a gun and silencer to defend himself against a gang of kidnappers. While reluctant at first, Brian starts having a little too much fun with his firearm, comparing it to a video game.
Oh, this is like a video game.
He manages to gun down a few grunts, and then shoots a waiter on another boat for literally no reason other than to show off. It's especially terrible with that cocky smile on his face as he pulls the trigger. And it was especially dumb since it was his last bullet, leaving him defenseless against the bad guys. Bad shooting, Tex.
That's for shooting one of our guys!
Number 1, his act of heroism.
Brian's definition of heroism needs some work. As he explains how he got a hernia while performing an act of incredible heroism, we see him trying to rescue a pretty woman from drowning in her car.
However, the minute the woman mentions she has a baby with her, Brian accidentally lets her car roll into the ocean, leaving them to drown to death.
While Brian was once considered the book-smart voice of reason, he often seems to have devolved into a pretentious and selfish character with only his own interest at heart, even when there are lives at stake. If that's not despicable, then we're not sure what is.
Oh, slipping, sorry.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.